Hello, everyone, and Artfully Connected with Cindy Harrison. I am Cindy Harrison, your host of Artfully Connected, also host of Artful Webinars. And now we have, thank you for joining us tonight on this lovely night. I had just before we were going live, I heard big thunder, lightning outside, and I'm like, oh, I hope I don't lose power. So if we do, that's why. But thank you for joining us. And tonight's guest on Meet the Artist is Carolyn Bacon.
Hello.
Hello. How are you tonight?
Yes. I'm good. Good.
No storms out your way? I see the sun shining through your windows.
Yes. No storms today, but we've had really stormy weather, lots of rain and thunder and lightning. We're out here in the Midwest, so we get lots of thunderstorms.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think you sent them to us.
Yes, I'm sure they go that way.
I'm going to change your name because it still was saying Allison on it. So
Okay.
Thank you for being here tonight, though. It's so exciting because I have admired your work for so many years. And
thank you.
And I've even, back when you were actually selling the music at convention, you had the, box of sheet music that we could pick from, and
oh yes,
that stuff. That's how long ago. And you actually taught at our chapter. So we did the flag.
Oh yes, okay.
The American flag, and
yes.
So I've done the cello or a violin or something.
Yes, I did a violin on the Tennessee waltz.
Yeah.
Years ago.
Yeah. So I had that one. I did that one. I think I did the piano. So I mean, yeah, I've done a lot of
okay.
golden oldies, right?
Right. It's been a long time, but yes, I did a lot of sheet music. I'm still designing on sheet music though, so.
Excellent, because it's one of a kind. Not many people are designing on paper in general, and nobody else is designing on sheet music that I know of. But
I've done that for many years. I think one of the first ones I did was when the SDP convention was in Washington, D.C., and I did a Star Spangled Banner. And I think that was the start of my music. And I used to say, as I drove down the road, I lived out in the country, that as I listened to the radio, I'd hear a song and think, oh, I could paint on that. So constantly thinking.
Because of you, I went and pilfered my sister's piano bench.
Oh,
I started pulling out music, saying, does this move me? Could I paint something on this? They sit in a file for the last 20 years, and I haven't painted on any of it because it's never come to fruition. You know how sometimes you have ideas, but you can't get them out, so.
Oh yeah, I've got all those ideas, sure.
So I just want to say once again, thank you to everybody who is joining us. If you have any questions for Carolyn, please post them on, in the comments area, and I will translate them for you, or whatever the word is, ask them for you, and then she will answer them. If you're watching on the replay, thank you again for joining us and taking time out of your day to do so. And if you have questions, you can put them in there too. Just let us know that you posted a question by putting an @ sign in front of my name, and I will, because you're not a member yet, right, Carolyn?
Allison?
No.
I need to do that.
Yeah. So, but if you do have a question for her, you can make sure that I know it, and I will get the answer for you as soon as I can. So thank you so much. I'm going to start off with a really easy question. And so basically, tell us where you're from.
Okay, I live in the town of St. Charles, Missouri, which is just across the Missouri River from St. Louis. It's an old town. It was one of the first capitals of Missouri. We still have a quaint little old Main Street that has little shops and art studios and restaurants. So St. Charles is a neat place to live. You have all the advantages of a big city, but you live in a little small town. I love it here. And I've lived here for about 10 years. I lived in Bridgeton, which is part of St. Louis County, for a long time. And then when my husband and I both retired, we moved to the Lake of the Ozarks, and we had a house right on the lake, and did that for many years, and finally decided it was time to get us back to the big city and live near my daughter. So she's a big help.
Cool. So I was going to say, so where were you born?
I was born in Poplar Bluff, Missouri, which is way down in the boot heel of Missouri, that little part that's almost in Arkansas, and lived there most of my all my childhood, and then went to Southeast Missouri State University, which is in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Met my husband there, and we moved to St. Louis area. So that's kind of my.
You've always lived in Missouri then.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
Cool, but you've been all over the state.
I've been in all 50 states, and I've been in 25 countries. So I love to travel and have done a lot of that. And sometimes the advantage of getting to teach someplace, I got to see something new and different. So I have traveled a lot.
That is really cool.
Yes.
That's like, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, being a school librarian, I was off during the summers. So that gave me a chance to travel. That's really a good thing then. And you taught school? I was a school librarian. My degree was in teaching, but my master's was in library science. So I didn't really teach classes except things on how to use the library. And I did story time for the kids and that sort of thing as a school librarian.
That's really cool too. I mean,
yes.
But you got the summers off, and your husband was able to take you away and go places and see different things, and that's so
actually he was a junior high school librarian in the same school district. And then I had a daughter, and she took my place when I retired as a school librarian. She had gotten her degree, so she was a school librarian. So wow. We're a library family.
There you go. That is so wonderful, because I know that books can take you away and, go on vacation without leaving your home, right? And so many things could happen in books. That is so wonderful. So,
and it's great to introduce kids to new authors and new stories and that sort of thing. So love my job.
Oh, that's wonderful. And you did that for a long time, huh? How many years?
About 18, I think.
Wow.
I'm sure you're going to ask me how I got started painting.
I will. I'm getting there.
And that's part of the story, because as a school librarian, the PE teacher and I were both pregnant. And she said, we need a hobby so that we can get out in the evenings after these kids come. I said, well, what would you like to do? And she said, well, I've been thinking about tole painting. I've heard that you paint daisies and violets and fruit and vegetables. And so she said, why don't we try that? And she went out and signed us up, and off we went to class. She took 2 classes and quit. And my daughter is now, can I tell? Now, she's 52 years old. So I've been painting for 52 years. But
that's wonderful.
Yes, it was all due to the PE teacher. And several times I've said, thank goodness she didn't want to decorate cakes. That would have been a real disaster.
So the question I was going to ask before we got into your actual painting journey was, did you come from an artful family? Were your parents artistic? Do you have siblings? Were they artistic or anything like that?
Well, no, not really. My mother made lots of fancy clothes for us, but that's about all she did. And I have one sister, and she was a military wife, and she says years ago she took a class that they were offering to the military wives of learn to do what you can do with your talents. And she said, I quickly figured out I had no talent at all. So she does not paint and she's not interested in it. She loves to see the things I do, but no, there's no history or background. I do remember when I started painting, my assistant principal said, well, you make really neat bulletin boards for the library, so you probably have a little talent there.
A little?
A little talent. So it's been fun.
My goodness. But, sewing, sewing, I call that artful, an artistic form. My mom is a sewer, and she sewed all my clothes growing up, and she sewed all my sister's clothes, and she made things. I mean, that's an art form in itself, really.
Yes,
So,
I think it takes a talent to be able to do that.
It definitely does. So, so you started painting when when you were pregnant for your daughter, and other than her being a librarian and taking up, your profession, you and your husband, is she also a painter? Is she also an artist?
Yes, she's my favorite person to paint with. We do that a lot. In fact, I'm in her paint studio right now. She has it all set up. And yes, she's been to lots of classes, and she's taken several classes that you offer on the Artful webinars. And yep, she and I have a really good time together, and we do paint a lot.
That's fantastic. I love it.
And thank goodness she's good at all this tech stuff, because at my age, I don't do very well with that.
We have to have one of those techie savvy people in our families. Everyone needs one for sure.
Yes.
So when you first started out in tole painting and such, was there a certain artist that influenced you the most and that you aspired to paint like her or him, or who was your inspiration?
I don't know if anybody will remember her, but Judy Krause lived in the St. Louis area, and she taught for years and years, and we always went to the national conventions and that sort of thing. And so I hooked up with Judy quite early, and I guess I had been painting for about 5 years before I started teaching. So Judy was one of them that I painted with a lot, but I've painted with many wonderful, wonderful teachers, with like Priscilla, and Ann Kingston is one of my favorites. And I could just go on and on with the people I've painted with and that I like to paint with. Mary Givalesco is a fun one to paint with. So I still take classes. I enjoy doing it. Oftentimes I say I could paint that myself, but I probably wouldn't if I wasn't in a class. And I take a class and it's finished and I have it done. So I like to paint with other people.
Yes, it is very fun painting with other people.
Yes, you
so
do.
when you started painting and you were taking the classes, was it in oils or acrylics?
It was in oils. I painted in oils for many, many years, and it's still sort of a favorite, but I do paint in acrylics. I have an interesting story about that, if you'd like to hear it.
Sure, I'd love to hear it.
At one point, I was on the board of directors for SDP. In fact, at one time, I was president of SDP. But when I was on the board, I met a lady named Jean Chancellor, and she was the plaid teacher representative. And she said, Carolyn, why don't you paint acrylics? And I said, well, I don't like them. They're too hard to use. You can't shade and fade it out and lift it off if you don't like it. And she said, oh, you can paint with acrylics. When I get home, I'm going to send you a whole box full, and I'm going to send you some blending gel. And if you use blending gel, I'm sure you can learn to paint with acrylics. And I got her box and I got my blending gel, and I still use it when I teach, when I paint. And I like it. I can make the colors blend more like oil paints if you use the blending gel.
Cool. I have not tried that. I bought some blending gel, but I have not tried that. So I probably
Well-
bought it because I wanted to do your patterns, and they still sit in my library. Like, why do I have this gel?
Well, sometimes I put it in my base coat, but normally I base coat something and then I put it in my brush with my blending color, and I can just blend that into the paint. It sort of activates the base color a little bit, and you can walk it out and fade it off. So that's how I use the blending gel.
Cool. And you do this in all of your designs, or just?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
it's just my standard way of painting. She sent me a bottle of that and I started experimenting with it. Now, some people used to put it on their surface first and then put their base coat down. Well, I found that just sort of swims around, so I don't do that. I base something and then I pick it up with my shading color. Even my light shading color, you can pick it up with that, and you blend it in and walk it out or fade it off. So I don't float colors. I use blending gel to shade.
Oh, I'm going to be so interested in watching your class again, because it's been so long since I had a class with you.
You might learn something, yes.
I know, for sure I will. For sure I will. So from the time you started taking tole painting lessons with the PT person, the teacher, your friend at school.
Oh, yes, my PE teacher, my friend.
There
Yes.
it is. I forget what they call it. PE teacher, right? So
Yes.
from how long from that time that you started taking classes did you start teaching classes yourself?
Well, I had painted for about 5 years, and the school district I had been with asked me to come teach an adult ed class of tole painting. And at first I said, no, I didn't think I wanted to do that. And then I said, well, okay, I'll try that. So I had painted for about 5 years before I started teaching them with the adult ed. I did that for several years. At that point, my husband built me a studio in the basement, and I could have like about 12 people in a class. So I taught classes in the mornings, in the afternoons, evenings, and I had about 100 students a week in my home studio. So I was kind of a busy person doing all that, but I enjoyed it. And I did that for 20 years, I guess. And at that point, a friend of ours who was an assistant principal insisted I come back and be a school librarian again. So I did. I went back and did that for another 7 or 8 years, still trying to teach a few classes at home in the evenings or on Saturdays. And then after that, I finally retired and started going to conventions and having a booth at convention and teaching classes and doing seminars and traveling.
Wonderful, wonderful. So at what point did you become a designer? You know, I assume in the beginning you were teaching other people's designs, or
basically, no. I did some. If I took a class someplace, and I might ask the teacher if I had their permission to teach it. But once I started teaching, I designed each little project that I was going to teach. So I started designing as soon as I started teaching, basically.
Wow. So that's wonderful, because I mean, a lot of us, we say we taught other people's to get comfortable teaching, and then we started designing, but you went right into it. That's wonderful.
Yes. Yes, I taught all those days. Yes.
What inspired you? Like, how did you come up with the designs, or how did you come up with your designs?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that exactly. If I'm on sheet music, I would think of something like, I've got that lighthouse behind me on You Light Up My Life. And I love to do birds and flowers and animals and all that sort of stuff. And I would just design something and see if it was teachable. And most things that I have painted or designed, I have taught at some point. Occasionally I do something just for myself, but normally it's something to teach. I'm working on things now for SDP for 2022, I guess it is. So,
Definitely, definitely.
always designing something or thinking of something, or you see something as you drive along, you think, oh, that's an idea. I can, draw something that looks similar to that and paint it and see what it looks like. So yes,
Cool.
designed a lot.
So what would you say is your favorite subject matter? What do you like to design more than other things?
Well, I do like a lot of birds. For some reason, they interest me. We have about 5 bird feeders outside my dining room window that I watch all day long. But I like animals and I like still lifes. But I think birds and animals are about my favorite. I do like flowers. I like to design flowers in pots or in glass vases, that sort of thing.
Oh, cool. And do you have a favorite medium? I mean, I know you started in oils and you do acrylics, but do you prefer oils over acrylics?
Well, let's put it this way. If I were painting something for myself, I usually paint in oils because I really enjoy that. But if I'm designing something to teach, I normally paint in acrylics, mainly because there aren't that many oil painters that come to conventions and take classes anymore. There are a few holdout teachers that still teach in oils, and I'll take one of their classes if I can. But usually I paint in acrylics if I'm designing something to teach.
Hmm.
That makes sense, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, so do you have a favorite technique besides using your gel blending, medium? Do you have another favorite technique?
Well, I don't know that I do. Uh, in painting in oils, I love the fact that they are so easy to blend and shade. And I do like doing scenes and skies with oils.
Hmm. It's like I want to get you to teach an oil class now. I don't paint in oils. I save that for it within when I go to a convention or somewhere.
Yes.
I'll take an oil class and I'll take a watercolor class because otherwise I don't know enough about the medium to feel confident that I can do it on my own. So yeah.
Well, I think it's easier. Allison has a friend who was a retired teacher, and she said, I'd like you to teach me how to paint. So about once a week, Allison and I get together with Therese, and I started her out with a couple of little projects in acrylics. And then I said, let's try some oils. Well, she loved it. She said, no more acrylics. I'm for the oil painting. So I've been teaching her some projects with oils. So I find it much easier, but most people think it sounds too hard.
See, so we can convert a bunch of acrylic painters to oils. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Oh, I'm sorry. Allison distracted me. She thought I should tell you that I love antiquing things. When I mount the sheet music, I mount it on a craft mounting board that most people use for needlepoint, that sort of thing. They stretch it on there, but that's what I put my sheet music on. And then I do like antiquing it. I use Plaid's glazing medium with their color asphaltum. And like that piece of music behind me, I antique the white so it looks old, but I do like antiquing things.
So a question from the audience, what brand of acrylics do you use?
Well, I use both Plaid's folk art, and I also use Deco Arts Americana. I use them both, and it's kind of what I pick up that day. I have a drawer full of Americanas, a cabinet full, and then I have one of those spinning racks over here that's full of plaid paint, and it's kind of whichever one I pick up. But I do paint with both of those, and I use plaid blending gel with the Deco Art as well. Works just fine.
Cool. Okay, so the next question I have is, do you have a favorite brush?
Well, yes. Oh, I thought I had them laying out here. I've forgotten. I like Royal's angle brushes. I think it's 2060 number, and they're clear handles, and they have angles that are 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 3/8 inch. And I find that little pointed angle is great to be able, it's great to be able to make nice round edges as you smooth along the outside. That little point helps you. It also can be tucked into little places where you need to shade things. And then this is a brush that I use a lot. It's a Sherry Wall droplet. If you use your liner, you find it's hard on your liner, but this comes to a little point and you can tuck it into places. And I use that just almost everything I paint. I have one of these sitting there so I can just tuck it into a little spot.
So it's called a droplet?
It's called a Sherry Raw droplet. I use number 2s.
So is it like a round that comes to a point?
Yes, it is. It's comes to quite a short little point, but I find it saves my liner a lot because I use that little point to get it into places that a lot of times you would use your liner. But it's a Sherry Raw droplet number 2. And I usually have that listed on class supplies and suggest that people try to pick one up.
And where do you find them? Do you sell them, or does Sherry Roll sell them?
Yeah, Sherry sells them. I don't sell brushes, but Royal Publications.
Okay.
Yeah, she always has those. I usually order 4, 5, 6 at a time. So, because I do tend to wear it out a little bit.
So what would be your best tip that you would offer a student?
I feel like I have to suggest they use blending gel. I don't know if I have a bottle sitting around here or not, because it's made life so much easier. And I have talked to a lot of people who were oil painters into painting with acrylics because I've gotten them to try using the blending gel with their acrylic. And I have converted several people.
So that's good for people who have trouble with the floating, because the F word, we all know that's a bad word. Floating,
yes.
Don't make people float. So if they have trouble with that, you recommend try the blending gel.
Yes, I do. It makes a big difference.
So do you dress your brush with the blending gel and then pick up paint to float, or how does that?
Yes, I don't ever wet my brush in water before I start to paint. I have a dry brush and I either base coat the area with my basic undercoating color, and then I would pick up a little blending gel in my brush, kind of get rid of a little bit of it, and then put down my shading color and just fade it out as I go. And you can just soften it in, and all of a sudden, if you're painting red and you're using like a maroon, it all of a sudden just fades over and becomes red.
Wow. I can't wait to see this process again. I know it's been a long time, but I forgot what I saw when I first saw it. So I'm very anxious to see it again for sure.
Well, I was on the board in like 2003 or 4, something way back there. And that's when I met Jean and started using the blending gel. So I've been teaching with it for a number of years.
And I'm so glad that they still make it too. A lot of places discontinue stuff and then you can never find it again. So that's one that is still available. So
Yes, it is.
that's wonderful. If there's any questions from the audience, definitely please post them and I will ask them for you, because I'm running out of questions. But let's see, is there a medium, a subject matter, or a technique that you haven't tried that you'd like to try?
Well, I've tried a few. I took a class in watercolor and decided that was not for me. I just couldn't seem to get the hang of that. And the fact you don't have white that you can lighten stuff up with or cover stuff up with. So that was not for me. I've also taken a few colored pencil classes. Now my daughter Allison loves to do them and she's very soft with her pencil. I think I have too heavy a hand when I use colored pencils, and I've used pastels, but they all seem, I don't do very well in those. So I'm staying with oils and acrylic, I think.
So, okay. And you're going to be teaching we're so happy that you joined us. You're going to be teaching for ARPA webinars. And I just wondered if you'd like to show the projects that you're going to be doing and maybe talk a little bit about them.
Okay. Well, the first thing I'm doing is, I think it's on the 19th, I'm doing a free demo, and it's this cardinal that's behind me. Mom,
that's next Tuesday, right? No, it's okay.
Yes.
She's fine.
The 19th, I think, is when that one is. I painted on a plate. I also have it painted on this banner. Maybe I can turn it sideways, that I had done in the past. Just a welcome banner, but I put the big cardinal on the bottom. I intend to, in the demo, I'm just going to paint on a 9x12 canvas board. They can paint that on anything they're interested in. It's kind of versatile, but it can just be on an 8x10 canvas. And that's a free demo through Artful Webinars.
Actually, that one's through Artfully Connected.
What?
It's through Artfully Connected. It's on the Facebook. The free demo's on Facebook, just
Okay.
like we are right now. Okay.
Well, I'm not too good at all this tech stuff.
That's okay. We'll keep it straight for everyone.
Yes, and Allison's a big help with that. So
yeah.
And then over my shoulder here is when I'm teaching August the 28th. It's on sheet music. You light up my life with a lighthouse, and they can put that on any surface they want to. They can contact me and get the prepped sheet music if they want to for that class. Then over on behind the other shoulder is the big proud eagle, which I thought I had it. Oh, it's hanging on the wall. Which, as I said, I like to do the big birds and heads, and that's on, let's see, when is that? That's on September the 18th. So that will be available for people to sign up for.
Cool. So, yeah, I believe that they are open. What is she saying?
Both classes are open to sign up for.
Yeah, I think so. I believe they are. So definitely go over to artfulwebinars.com and check them out. They'll be under painting, and I'm interested. So if the cardinal one for next Tuesday, that
Yes.
pattern, how can they go about getting that pattern if they wanted it?
If they just email me, Carolyn Bacon @ymail.com, and they can pay for it by PayPal, or they can send me a check for $6, and they can get the pattern and the directions and the photo. Yes, I will email it to them if they are interested in painting along as I do the demo.
So I'll put that Carolyn Bacon at ymail.com. There you go.
Yes, and the
So-
pattern photo and directions are like $6. So
Cool.
yes, if they want to paint along, they certainly can.
And you said you're you're designing for SDP. Are there other chapters invited you to teach there, or did you open up your home studio since COVID hit to teach people?
Well, that's all sort of slowed down, of course. I was supposed to teach last October at Painting Palooza. That's let's see, Sherry the Rawls and the Darla Foreman and Jeanette and
This is the
Bear With Us people.
Yeah.
Yes, that's in Oklahoma City. And that was postponed to May, and then it's now been postponed to next October. So they're hoping by October we'll be able to teach for that. As I said, I was prepping some stuff. SDP has announced that they're going to go to Vegas for a convention in 2022. And I'm not teaching, but I'm going to net with Allison. She and I are going to go. I taught there for many years and had a booth and demoed and just kind of lost track of them. And we happened to run across the fact that they were having a convention next October. So she and I signed up to go. I love to go paint with other people. So yes, I do intend to go to net. Don't have any other seminars scheduled. I've taught a lot at many of the chapters, and I belong to a chapter over in Kansas City and have taught for them several times. They haven't had meetings for a while, but they're going to try to have some meetings again, so that'll be fun. I drive over, and I have a sister that lives in Kansas City, so I drive over and stay with her and go to the meeting and paint or teach, whichever one happens to be happening at that time.
Did you say if she was artistic or not?
No.
She's not.
She
Okay.
loves my stuff, and she's always, I give her lots of things. And at Christmas this year, I painted a lot of paper mache boxes, and she used to give Christmas presents to everybody in a decorative bag. So she decided that she could use my decorated paper mache boxes and put candy or whatever. I love to paint Prudy's little elves, and so I've done a lot of those, doing various things. Like I did one with them making chocolate covered cherries, so she put chocolate covered cherries in the box and used it for a gift. So no, she doesn't do it herself, but she loves my stuff, and anytime I paint something, I take a picture on the phone and send it to her. And of course, she raves about how beautiful it is or whatever. So she's very supportive, but she says she's not artistic at all.
She hasn't tried then. I'm
What?
sure you could. I'm sure you could have taught her how to paint.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
so cute. But she appreciates it, and that's very important, to have
Yes,
that
that's great.
So
And I visit with her a lot, but haven't been able to, of course, this last year. I'm hoping sometime here in July or August that I can run over and visit. She was only a year older, so of course we grew up and eventually became really good friends. We weren't such good friends when we were in junior high and high school, but as we've gotten older, we became quite friendly and we have a good time together. She used to travel with us some when I would go to teach in net, or I taught out in Washington. I went to that convention that Portland and Washington share together every other year. And she traveled and went out there with us. So she likes to see things that are being taught, but she doesn't paint.
but that's okay. She's an art enthusiast.
Yes, yes, she is. And she would go watch other people doing demos when we went to a convention, and she went with us. So, yes, but
Now, I know that you have a lot of pattern packets. Did you ever do books? I'm sorry if I should know this, but have you done any books?
just a few. At one point, Jerry Klein did a book with Genesis way back when it first got started, and she had me do a couple of projects for that. I think that's about the only thing that I've done. I just made pattern packets. I have tons of pattern packets. And as I said, Turtle Hollow artist, Darla Foreman, at some point, I quit having a booth and selling pattern packets and all that. And she said, well, let me sell them for you. So she's done that for a long time. And I'm sure she still has some. I don't know exactly what she still has. But Allison has decided that I probably should get back in the pattern packet selling business. So she's thinking about doing a website for me and putting pattern packets together. And I still have lots of photos. And of course, I still have all the original patterns. I happen to think of something. There was a man named Bob Jones who showed up at some of the conventions, and he did fish. And I got him interested in doing pattern packets for his fish, and we sold lots of those, and he sold his fish all over the country, and he started going to some of the conventions. Haven't heard anything from Bob lately. He also carved wooden ducks that we painted. So
I won one of those fish. I won the fish at net.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah, you know how they have the drawings throughout the day on
Yes.
the trade floor, and I went and picked, and my name was pulled for one of them, and it was one of the fish.
Oh, wow. I still have a few of his fish around.
Yeah, they were nicely done. They're high quality fish.
Yes. Yes,
sure.
he was a nice guy. I still get a Christmas card from he and Linda, but I haven't seen him in a long time.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
That's so
Well,
sweet. Well, hey, that's going to be good. We're going to look forward to the website when Allison gets that up, and it's going to be easy, Allison. You can do it.
yes. Well, if somebody thinks of a pattern that they've seen back in years ago, they can contact me. I think you had my information from my email. Yep. And if I don't have a pattern packet, I can put one together, that's for sure, because I still have all those sitting in boxes and all the photographs. And now, of course, we can copy it on the printer, and some of those turn out just perfect. So
do your pattern packets include the sheet music? If it's a pattern that has the music, is the music included? Is that a separate like kit with the backboard?
Yes, it's separate because it was hard. I used to fold up pattern packets and did the little 7x12 or whatever it was, and there was no way to put music in there. And so they have to order that as a separate surface.
With the backing.
Yeah, and they're backed and ready to paint on. Usually I go ahead and antique them, not always, but usually I antique them. Several people have ordered the surface already for the You Light Up My Lighthouse, You Light Up My Life lighthouse, and I've gotten those in the mail already and sent them off. So excellent. Yes, there's still time for them to order if they would like that surface to paint on, but this would look nice just on a canvas. It's a 9x12.
I know that the backing that you use for the one for the needlepoint, it's sometimes hard to find. So
yes, it used to always be available at Michael's. I haven't looked lately. I order from the original company and order like 100 of them at a time. And I haven't looked to see if they're available anyplace, but it makes a wonderful backing. And it's also nice to put photographs on there. It gives you a nice stiff surface. I did have a lady once who painted on it without backing it. And then she's called me and said, well, it's all wrinkly. And what do I do now? And I said, well, I think you have to start over, because if it's not backed with a hard surface, especially acrylics and all that water, is going to make your paper just wrinkle and crinkle. So it does need to be backed. And I use that sometimes just for canvas. I'll just cut me a 9x12 piece of canvas and stick it on there and paint on it. So it does make a nice surface if you've got it mounted.
Yeah, so even canvas, huh?
Yes, yes, you can just cut a piece of canvas 9x12. Well, those actually come in 5x7s and 8x10s, and I use the 9x12 because that's the size sheet music comes in. And I think they even make 16x20s. But as I said, I'll have to look, because I haven't looked lately to see if anybody still carries those. Walmart had them for a while, but I know they don't anymore. And it's a company in Illinois that I order from.
Well, they're like gold probably now, because with COVID and a lot of manufacturers had to close their factories, because of COVID, and then they're having a hard time starting back up. I mean, they are starting up, but it's slow going, right?
Yes. We did get an email from Darla Foreman the other day that said if we were ordering deco art paint for our classes and Paint Palooza in October, we needed to get those orders in. Hopefully then we could get the colors that we need. So I'm sure everybody's scrambling to get paints available for people to use.
Yep, I agree with you. I agree with you. So if there's any questions for Carolyn, please put them in the comment. Otherwise, I've run out of questions, Carolyn.
Well, we have talked for quite a while, and I've given you lots of information, some of which you may not have needed.
No, I love hearing everyone's artful journey, because it's amazing. A lot of people have similarities, but then occasionally there's like, I didn't know that, and I didn't know this, and I didn't know that. So I didn't know you were a librarian.
Yes, that was I started working at the public library in my hometown of Poplar Bluff when I was in the 7th grade. I worked after school and on Saturdays, and that was really what I loved to do. So when I went to college or the university, I decided that definitely was what I was going to do. But along with majoring in library science, I also had to have a different major. So I majored in English literature. Everybody thought that went along with the library. And then I met my husband at college, and he decided he would like to be a librarian also. So he started taking library classes, and we both came to St. Louis, and I got a job in Parkway, which is in the suburbs, and he got a job in Afton, which is another school district in the area. Then eventually we both ended up at the Pattonville School District, which is one of St. Louis County's largest school districts. And then, as I said, when I retired, Allison had finished her degree. Now I understand you don't have to have a library degree to be a librarian. If you have a teaching degree, you can take a test. And if you pass the test, you can be a school librarian. She just retired this year, and the reading teacher went off and took the test, and she's going to replace Allison in the library. So that's a different world. Times change and things are different.
Definitely is. That definitely is.
Yes.
And I had a question about that. So that's your question. What is, you've read, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of books and such, but do you have one favorite book?
Well, sounds kind of strange, but I love all the Beatrice Potter's little books, The Tale of Peter Rabbit and The Tale of Squirrel Nutkin and Mrs. Tiddlywinkel. And I love her little designs that she did and drew, and she did them in watercolor. And when Allison and I were in England several years ago, we got to go see Beatrice Potter's house and see all the original drawings and all those things. But I do like to read other stories. I like historical fiction a lot, but I just love all those little Peter Rabbit books.
And the artwork is just beautiful, just beautiful.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that's the other question is how many countries, I mean, when you travel, did you also teach in these countries or did you just go there on a vacation?
No, I've not taught overseas at all. At one point, I think when I was president of SDP, the Japanese chapter was going to have me come over there and teach, but I didn't. No, we've just traveled as a family, or Allison and I have traveled. One of the teachers, when she was school librarian, said, "We're going to go to Japan as a family. Would you and your mother want to go with us?" And we said, "Of course." So we went to Japan for a week or two and had a wonderful time. And then my husband and I have traveled a lot. We've only been on one cruise, but it went up through Sweden. So we went to Sweden and Finland and Russia and the Baltics and Germany. So, and then of course I mentioned my sister. She was a military wife. My brother-in-law was a colonel in the Air Force, and they lived all over the world. So that gave us another opportunity for traveling. We could go overseas and stay with them and then travel around and see Europe or Greece or wherever they happen to be. So we've just traveled as a family. And we had been we've been in 49 states when we had a 50th wedding anniversary. So for that, we went to Hawaii for our 50th state. Now, in a couple of next month, Jack and I will have been married 60 years. So I remember when my grandma had her 60th wedding anniversary, and I thought she was the oldest person I'd ever known. But now Jack and I have one. I don't know where we're going to go to because there are not 60 states, but we've had a great life and had a wonderful time. And he's been very supportive of all my painting and has encouraged me. And for a long time, he was my wood man. I would teach classes in the evening, and then after class, he'd be downstairs cutting wood and routing things and making designs. And so we've had a good life together.
That is awesome. So where was your initial honeymoon? Where did you go for the first honeymoon?
What? I didn't hear you.
Your first honeymoon when you first got married?
We got married when I was still in college. I had another year to go. And we went to Biloxi, Mississippi for our honeymoon. And on our way back, we started hearing, this was in 1961, we started hearing that National Guard units had been activated because the Russians had started to build the Berlin Wall. And by the time we got back to Poplar Bluff, we found out that his unit, which he belonged to in St. Louis, had been activated. And he left a month after we got married and went to France to defend the Berlin Wall, I like to say. So we spent our first year with him in France and me still going to college. But he came back and we went back to St. Louis area and got jobs, and life changed. He didn't stay in the Air Force. My brother-in-law did, but he didn't.
So you didn't really have a proper honeymoon then?
Yes, we did. We went to Biloxi for a week. down on the shore for a week
Oh,
or
see,
two.
now that's where you should spend your 60th then. Relive
Oh,
your
good,
first one.
good idea. Good idea.
Start over again.
I'll have to suggest that. That sounds like fun. Yes.
I'm sure it's nothing like it was in back then.
No, it probably is not at all the same. Well, at some point, we also had a travel trailer, and we traveled a lot with that all over the countryside. One year, we went from one end of the country in Washington clear over to the other end of the country in Maine in our travel trailer. That was just a fun thing to do. And we did it in the summer times, of course, because we were all off. And he's, as I said, he's been very supportive of my art stuff, and he was really good at the booth. He would set it up and work there and sell stuff.
When you did the travel trailer, did you bring your painting supplies with you so you could paint while you were, relaxing?
Oh, of course, yes. I've carried that bag all over the countryside. Sometimes I don't get to paint. I'll take it with me just in case. And of course, when we lived at the lake, I had a studio that looked out on the lake and the birds and the ducks, and we had eagles. And so I painted a lot when I was at the lake. And people would say, "Do you like living at the lake?" And I said, "Well, you can paint anywhere, so it doesn't matter where you live. You can always paint." And I do a lot of it.
Now, do you go, do you draw, like you see something, you said sometimes you travel down the road and you look over and say, "Oh, that would make a nice drawing or a painting." Do you draw it out? Do you sketch it out first and then paint it, or do you go right to the painting?
Oh, I usually sketch it, try to design it, maybe change it a little bit, add a tree here or there. Or if it's an old barn, you might add a silo to it or something. But yes, I always draw it out first and then put it on tracing paper and decide what kind of surface I'm going to paint on. Like I showed with the cardinal, this banner is just a canvas banner, but I've also put it on the plate back there. And I've done it on just on a 8x10 canvas. So I'm always figuring out something I can do with things. I have these welcome banners. I have one with a big blue jay, and I have one with a goldfinch. And so I'm always thinking of ideas and then getting excited about it and want to try to design it right then and start painting the next day. Or so I keep myself busy painting. And of course, I've done an awful lot more than normal with the last year being at home, but I do have a good, I love to do it. Yes.
That's wonderful. You're getting a lot of congratulations on your anniversary coming up. So everyone is congratulating you. And so, yeah, we are at the 8 o'clock, just about at the 8 o'clock here. Any rate, so this has been really wonderful, Carolyn. Thank you for sharing your artful journey and your all your journeys with us.
Yes, I've had a lot. Well, thank you. It was nice to talk to everybody, and I hope some of the people decide they'd like to do the demo or maybe a class. So I do thank you for having me.
You're welcome. It's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're part of the family now. So everybody, if you want to join Carolyn and learn more about her technique, which to me sounds very intriguing, and I can't wait to see it, and maybe I can try it.
Yes, you should.
I don't get to paint anymore because I'm always on the computer, but
I'm sure.
I'm definitely inspired. So you can do that by going to artfulwebinars.com. and then sign up for her class. It's under the painting emblem. So you can do that. Let's see. Great interview, ladies. Yay. And thank you. Thank you all for being here. Feel free to continue to ask questions if you come up with any, and let me know. And then I will send them over to Carolyn for answers. And as soon as she gets her own Facebook, she'll be part of the group. And we will get you there. We will get you there for sure. So tomorrow night, I have another, I believe we have another program tomorrow night. And let's see, I can tell you what that is. I'm busy like every single night of the week. There is something going on. So you can join us here at 7 p.m. and you will see more Meet the Artist. Let's see, we have a watch and learn with brushstrokes. Execute a perfect brushstroke with Arlene Linton tomorrow night. I think the 16th. Yeah, 2 nights from now, right? Friday night. Carolyn Bacon's Cardinal is on the 19th on Monday night. And there's more to come on that. So card making and painting, doing glass art, which is interesting. And Meet the Artist, Fran from Stampendous is going to be at the end of the month. So check it all out. Please come back and join us. If you want Carolyn's pattern, email her, Carolyn Bacon at ymail.com. and get that pattern, and then you can paint with her. And even if you don't want to paint with her at that moment she's live, it stays on Facebook. It's recorded by Facebook and stays on Facebook, so you can watch the replays over and over. So that means you can order your supplies too. And if you don't get them on no time, you can still watch the video and then do it when you get your supplies. So yay.
Hey.
Thank you so much, Carolyn. Thank you, Allison.
Yes. Yes, this wouldn't have been possible without Allison.
I know. And thank you all for watching now and on the replay. And remember to always paint with heart. Have a good rest of your week. Bye-bye now.